On the edge of the desert, just outside the sleepy city of Creston Falls, a dog sniffed at the dirt and scratched at the sun-baked earth. What it uncovered would lead police to one of the largest unsolved mass graves in American history. It was February 12th, 2009. A woman named Carmen DeWitt was walking her German Shepherd along the edge of a dry and used lot on the outskirts of Marlin County, in the state of Redstone. It was an empty place. No houses, no traffic, just red sand, thorn brush, and silence. But that silence broke when her dog stopped, growled, and began digging. Carmen thought it was an old bone, maybe coyote, maybe cow, but it wasn't. It was human. That discovery triggered a full-scale excavation. Over the next 2 months, investigators uncovered a horrifying secret. 11 women and 1 unborn child, buried in shallow graves across 92 acres of desert land. The site became known to locals as the Redstone Graves. Forensic teams worked in silence, dusting bones with brushes, logging each item with trembling hands. There was no mass burial, no obvious ritual. These women had been buried deliberately, separately and secretly. Some had been missing for years. And yet, until that day, no one had come looking. The first woman identified was Amber Rosales, 23 years old, last seen in 2003, leaving a gas station near downtown Creston Falls. Next came Lena Mathis, a 29-year-old single mother, who disappeared the same summer. Then Marisol Ortega, just 19, reported missing by her foster family and quickly forgotten. One by one, names were confirmed. One by one, a tragic pattern emerged. Women on the margins, some involved in sex work, some struggling with addiction, some simply invisible to the system. One of the women was pregnant. Her unborn child was counted among the dead. Overwhelmed and underfunded, police formed the Redstone Task Force. There were whispers of a serial killer. Some said it was a long-haul trucker. Others believed it was someone from town. One name stood out, Marcus Hall, a man with a record, history of assault. He once lived just 2 miles from the grave site. But Marcus? He was already dead, killed in a home invasion in 2007. So if it wasn't him, then who was it? As the investigation dragged on, another question surfaced. How did so many women vanish without anyone noticing? Why did it take years and a dog for their stories to be uncovered? Some said it was drugs, others blamed poverty. But the truth? These women didn't just fall through the cracks. They were pushed. If you're still watching, you're beginning to see the pattern. Forgotten women, a buried truth, and a killer still in the shadows. Hit the like button if you believe their stories deserve to be heard. Subscribe, because what we're about to uncover next might change how you see this case forever. So, what if I told you the Redstone Graves weren't the only ones? That investigators found evidence of a second burial site just 3 counties away? When investigators thought they'd reached the edge of the case, a whisper from a nearby county suggested something worse, that this might not be the only graveyard. It was June 2010, nearly a year after the last body was pulled from the Redstone Graves. A man in custody in Morrison County Jail, arrested for a parole violation, told deputies something chilling. He'd seen it, a place in the desert, marked with wooden stakes, trash bags weighted with rocks, and a smell he would never forget. He described the location in detail. A narrow back road east of the Selwood oil fields, not far from a shuttered truck stop. The site was surrounded by dry mesquite and rusted-out fencing, eerily familiar to those who'd worked the Redstone case. He didn't claim to be the killer. He claimed to have seen someone dump something out there weeks earlier and then disappear. With pressure mounting from the media and victims' families, the Redstone Task Force was reactivated. Teams from 3 counties converged on the suspected location. What they found wasn't as clear-cut as Redstone. No bones, no bodies, but there were signs: disturbed soil, burned trash, faint traces of blood. To this day, that site remains unofficially labeled as potential dump zone 2. No one has confirmed what, if anything, lies beneath, but for those who worked both scenes, the similarities were too specific to ignore. With the second site raising new alarms, focus returned to the suspects. Let's walk through what we know. Suspect 1, Marcus Hall, the local monster. Marcus Hall was violent, erratic, and lived just 2 miles from the original dump site. He'd been arrested for assault, suspected of stalking women, and had a fascination with body disposal methods. But Hall was dead before most of the remains were discovered, and without forensic ties to the scene, suspicion faded. Suspect 2, the long hauler, unidentified truck driver. In 2005, 2 sex workers described a white semi-truck often seen circling the Creston track. The driver was older, white, with faded tattoos and a missing tooth. He allegedly paid more for women who had no one waiting on them. Both witnesses vanished within a year. Neither has been found. So far, we've met a violent drifter and a phantom behind the wheel of a semi-truck. But before we reveal the third and most disturbing theory, if you've made it this far, you're not just watching, you're investigating. Tap the like button to support the case. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because this next lead, it doesn't come from the streets. It comes from inside the investigation itself. Suspect 3, someone inside. Then there's the third possibility, that it wasn't a monster in the dark, but someone from within. A leaked internal memo from 2012 suggested investigators looked into a possible connection between one of their own, an officer who worked in both Redstone and Morrison County. The memo disappeared. The officer resigned. It's been more than a decade since the Redstone Graves were discovered. 11 women and 1 unborn child, buried quietly beneath the sand. No arrests, no charges, and still no names for the ones responsible. Theories have come and gone. Suspects have died, disappeared, or slipped through the cracks. A second burial site was rumored, searched, but never confirmed. And the silence? It only grows deeper with time. For the families, closure never came. For the town of Creston Falls, the headlines faded. And for those who buried the women in the dust, their secret may still be safe. The forgotten desert lives up to its name. Forgotten by the system, forgotten by time, but we haven't forgotten. If you've stayed through the story, thank you. We tell these cases not to solve them, but so the people inside them are never erased. Subscribe if you want more stories that deserve to be remembered, because sometimes, even in the silence, someone is listening. This case remains open, the answers remain buried, and justice is still waiting to be found.